Welcome everybody to the show. This is Counter Clipping show number 133 for July 24th, 2023. Let me get the banner up. I did not update the banner. So if anybody wants to get into the Discord server, the link should still work. I've become a little less paranoid about that. So if it doesn't work, please let me know. There's a bunch of ways to reach out to me. So please do that. So first of all, welcome to the show and thanks for coming out tonight. Our topic tonight is gaming goals. And I kind of arrived at that because man, I got a lot of stuff to do. So kind of got to use this stream to sort of organize my thoughts and talk about kind of what I want to get accomplished in 2023. So, the rest of 2023 before it's over. But we do have some decent gaming news as well. Some decently big gaming news, I think. So before we get started with that, I'll remind everybody, please like the show and give us that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if for some unhappy mischance you are not already subscribed. And if you'd like to help support the channel, there's ways to do that in the video description. Big shout out to Grognard Rich for becoming the latest Ardwulf Lair patron at the hero level. So thanks, Grognard Rich. Let's say hello to, apologize in advance if I missed anybody, because I will, because this is just how YouTube serves me this information. So hello to Six Actual, Andrew Cook, welcome to the stream, Bayonet Brant from the Armchair Dragoons, Bill Simone, Brian Gash, Charles Latora, Counter Terrorist, which is a pretty cool name, I think. Cyber Field Marshal, Dale Brady, David Thompson is here. Thanks, David, for coming out. David Zell, Grognard Rich is here. Henry Sikorsky, the legend himself, Fucko is in the house. Jason W., Jason Williams, Jeff Beeler, Jeffrey Wesovich, Joe Faust from sunny Northeast Ohio, and we did indeed get a sunny Northeast Ohio today. Joe Okabayashi, John Stanley, John Clark, Kyle Harris, Lee Grant, Mark G., Matt Davidson, Meandering Mike, North Ranger, Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials. I'll be talking. I'm going to mention On to Richmond 2 today, so if you want to see a ton of content on to Richmond 2 and other great campaigns, the American Civil War good, just go check out his channel. Paul Sin, Ray Garby, Stacking Limit, Stigler is here. Glad Stigler is here because there's stuff that's relevant to him as well. Terrence Bonham, The Command 10, Todd Cox, Tony Mammal, Vicky, welcome back to the show. Vince Ree, William Boardman, William Bird, and Wolf Dog. So welcome everybody, and apologies once again to anybody that I missed this evening, which is probably tons and tons of people, judging from the 96 people here so far. So that's a lot. So thanks everybody for coming out. I will also mention, and I guess now that I'm mentioning it, I kind of have to check it. We're going to hit 7,000 subscribers pretty soon. A matter of a few weeks. When that happens, we will have a very exciting giveaway. This is your hint to be here that night because it is going to be a very exciting giveaway. I'm debating whether there's going to be multiple things given away that night or not. I was thinking about giving away 7 things, but the one very exciting giveaway is so exciting that it's 7 times more exciting than anything else I was planning to give away. So it might just be that one thing, but it's very exciting. You know who you are. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, and yes, we did complain plenty about decision games last week. So hilariously, one of the reasons I'm going out to WBC this Saturday is to talk to Doc and to talk to Tony Burkett, who has 2 new games out from our fine folks at Decision Games. That would be the Battles in the East Volume 1 and 2, featuring some, I realize it's going to sound funny to say this, some lesser known operational East Front things. And Tony is very well positioned to produce that kind of topic. But we have a whole pile of other stuff. We are clipping, by the way. You can't see this because the camera framing is terrible today. This is Talavero and Viamero. This is 2 battles from the Peninsular War from MMP at this point. Had to check and see if it was the gamers or not. This is the Napoleonic Brigade series, and actually I believe it is the final game in that now kaput series. I have 3 of the 4. Only one I need is Austerlitz. when I say need, I mean that in a very loose sense, considering that I already have probably 3 Austerlitz games. So, um, so in any case, I'm gonna hit you up on this perfidious Albion and make you wait for just a couple of minutes because I think I do have an answer, unofficial, of course, but I believe I do have an answer for you on this, and I think the answer is going to be no, and I'll maybe talk about why that is. Um, so let's get to the news. And the GMT monthly update is the third of three news items that I have for you this week. One is that there is a solo war and historical gaming survey, the link to which you will find in the video description. This is a co effort by the Armchair Dragoons and Beyond Solitaire. It is not limited to solo games, as in games you are intended to play solo. It's whatever games you enjoy playing solo that are historical games or war games or whatever. So if you want to participate in that, the link is in the video description. I made sure that that was the case. So I did my share, and in maybe one of my entries is not strictly historical. Thinking about it, but I sent it in anyway. So we're going to have a lot to say about the GMT update this week. The other piece of news that won't take very long is that Hot Dry Season, this is a game that has been moldering on pre-order over at Legion War Games for quite a long time, has changed publishers. It will now be published by Snafu Store, which is a outfit out of Barcelona. It is going to be in Spain. It's going to be their first boxed product. They've produced a number of smaller games as they slowly scale up their operation. It is a terrific game that I have playthrough video and all that on. So if you want to see that, check, and literally a seminar on the historical background by the designer. So check out that in the channel history. It is good stuff and is worth your attention. And I will happily buy it when it comes out from the Snafu Store folks, who additionally have been like selling, just like running a store. So it wasn't obvious to me that they were doing their own stuff. And in fact, they are now. And they have about 8 things either out or in the pipeline, although I think they may have sold out of a couple of things. Um, so the big thing here is, as you can imagine, the GMT update. So let's get to that. We're gonna have a lot to talk about here. All right, as usual. If you want to read all the details, go and read all the details. I am going to focus. I'm going to buzz through a lot of this miscellaneous update stuff. And I actually put the link in to the GMT update in the video description too, by the way. So if you don't even have to like go and find it on their webpage anymore. This is, I believe, the first time it has actually occurred to me to do that. I am going to focus on upcoming stuff and stuff that is actually in the production pipeline as usual, and I will buzz through the rest of it very quickly. They're going to start shipping these 5 products so they should already be shipping these 5 products. CDG Solo System number 2, Liberty or Death second printing, North Africa 41, mounted maps for North Africa 41, and Plantagenet, the latest in the Levian campaign series. That is a design by Francisco Gradial, as I recall. They do have a very limited stock of Mr. President. So this is going to be not available anymore real soon. So if you can locate a copy and you can get it, then you should do so pretty soon. There are a small number of copies at GMT still in stock, but they're holding them for people who put it in for P500 and whose cards did not go through. So if you are in that situation, if you P500 did it, and your card did not go through, get in touch with GMT like literally in the next 7 days or so, or you're going to be out of luck. So there's self-published indie game. I think self-published and indie game maybe don't necessarily mean the same thing here. The Mr. President playthrough continues. I'm probably not going to have an episode next week. I have started filming episode 6 but I haven't finished filming episode 6, so I might make Friday, but you might not get one until next week either. But that's continuing. And that is on the list, that's kind of what is in front of me right now as far as things to play. So that we're going to start the regular discussion as well with Mr. President. There is a new sandbox scenario, clear and present danger. I guess, are going to do some additional scenario support for Mr. President. I think it's reasonably safe to say we will see a second printing of this before very long at all. And there is some errata too, by the way. FYI, they're being very attentive in updating the errata document on the page. Tony doesn't see much chance of a second printing of Mr. President. No, that's going to get reprinted. I can tell you that's going to get reprinted. I mean, that's not official. That's just my opinion, but I think it's getting reprinted. All right. All right. So here's kind of where we're getting into the beef of this here. Now, for some time, I and some others have observed that, GMT has a lot of games, and I buy a lot of them, and a lot of them have errata counters. And up to this point, the method by which you'd get those errata counters is you'd buy an issue of C3I magazine. Now, I think C3I magazine is worth your time and money on its own merits, whether it's got errata counters in it or not. But that has stuck in the craw of various people who do not appreciate buying a $50 magazine to get the errata counters. So GMT is printing a 2023 errata counter sheet for games that released either in 2022 or 2023. And I'll get to the list of games in a minute here. The interesting news is that they are charging for the sheet. It is $3. That does include shipping in this case. I was worried about that because I just say click. I push the button immediately, and you'll see why in a minute. Because of the like 12 games on the sheet, I've got like 10 of them. But that does include shipping. And I was worried after thinking about it. Does that not include shipping? Am I going to get nailed for $18 for shipping this thing too? No, that includes shipping. It is $8 if you're not in the US, which I think will be refreshing for those of you not in the US to only pay $8 for shipping. But they are nevertheless charging for errata counters. And I am not sure I've seen any super aggressive complaining about that. And I'm a little surprised. So if anybody is particularly irritated that they are charging, and you're here tonight, say so. $3 is like, I can't even buy a cheeseburger for $3 anymore. So I'm not going to get all bent out of shape. I will observe that other companies send them out for free, including the fine folks at Decision Games will happily send you free errata counters. But you do have like another couple of weeks to order this. They're not going to let this sit forever. It's already got like 2,000. Let me look at this actually. This was at 2480. Have pre-ordered this so far, and they're not waiting for 500 on this. They said we're doing it. We're just gonna get a sense of how many we need, and they're not gonna make very many extras. So the games that do include, and there's the whole sheet, right? So you can see exactly what you're paying for here. The games that are included on the sheet are Barbarossa Army Group Center, New Edition, Great Battles of Julius Caesar, New Edition, Flying Colors Under the Southern Cross, which literally just came out, Pacific War, Seas of Thunder, Musket and Bike Dual Pack, Next War Poland Second Edition, Next War Supplement Number 3, Vietnam 65 to 75, Clash of Sovereigns, Fields of Fire 2, Mr. President, and Border Reavers. Now, a good third of the sheet is Pacific War counters because there was a bunch of misprinted Pacific War counters. A number of folks have gotten, let's say, irritated with that. However, I will say that based on the quantity of counters you get of all these different types in Pacific War, this is something that was unlikely to come up unless you are playing the strategic scenarios, i.e., the campaign game, i.e., the thing where you're playing the entire Pacific War. And I do think that a minority of people who are going to tackle Pacific War are going to play the strategic scenario. So there's that. So I think this was I don't have Brand is asking which ones I don't have. I don't have Seas of Thunder. I don't have Poland Second Edition, but I have First Edition. I'm a little unclear as to whether I need it or not, but probably I do. I don't have Next War Supplement Number 3, which is a little embarrassing. I don't have Clash of Sovereigns, Field of Fire, or Border Reavers. So there's a lot of here I do have, right? And I would assume this is going to be printed on like the standard GMT thick brown core stock. So um, Peter Rushton is miffed because it could be packed with other stuff he's ordering for zero extra cost for $8 for overseas, but it's only $8. I mean, normal, if they were actually giving, so they are. I think they said they were substituting this cost or something like that. They used the wrong word. Um, so they are subsidizing the price of this. The sheet itself probably costs roughly $3 to do, but the shipping ain't free, and particularly overseas, it ain't free. So as I have already ordered this, and I'm sure it'll be along at some point. It's supposed to be out by the before the end of the year. Let me put it that way. They're going to send it to print within the next few weeks, which makes it sound like December to me. Um, and they won't be printing a lot of extras. And now that Justin, I'm not sure who Justin is, has a system to work with the designers to create these, they're planning to offer replacement counters item on a yearly basis. Once they have their online system updated to handle it, blah 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 blah, they'll let us know. So congrats to the winners of the CSR awards that were from GMT, which include all. If you haven't seen it's not in the video description, so go check out charlesrobertsaward.com if you are just catching up. Um, I guess I want to say, and it's not like I made this happen. This happened on its own. That it's nice to see Richard Berg getting a Charles S. Roberts Award right after his passing. So Great Battles of Julius Caesar Deluxe, Almoravid or Almoravid. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. Plains Indian Wars, Pacific War Second Edition, Flashpoint South China Sea, Skies Above Britain, Fall of Saigon, James Dunnigan Award to Volko Ruhnke, Charles S. Roberts Memorial Award for Best New Designer to Dick Whitaker, the game in question being Into the Woods. New CSR winner in Charles S. Roberts Award Hall of Fame inductees Dana Lombardi, John Prados, and Volko Ruhnke. Those are all extremely deserving individuals that deserve to be in there. And that I did help make that decision. The rest of them that's where the votes came. I guess we voted in the Hall of Fame thing too, but there was an actual decision making role for me on the other stuff. Rally the Troops, getting a lot of attention. I'm considering giving Time of Crisis another try. Just I'm still like I finished the History of Rome podcast the other day, so there's that. Perfidious Albion has the original Caesar and Caesar at Gaul. Maybe you can use the upgrade counters. The new counters are a lot nicer, and it also includes all of the expansions for both games, and those are hard to find, except for Battles of the Warrior Queen, which is not particularly hard to find. Mike Bertuccelli. Mike, thanks for coming by. Good to see you here. Justin Martinez is the new art director for GMT Games. Mark Simonich retired from the art department. Okay, I didn't know that. That's not, that's news. Jeez. Okay. Didn't know that. I do not want to derail the show. John Madison, thanks for stopping by. I do not wish to derail the show about with CSR stuff. And Mike Ranella is a name in wargaming that may have come up. That's about all I'll say right now. We're not going to let absolutely an unlimited number of people in. Probably going to be more than one for the next few years, though. Anyway, I really don't want to talk about that. Mo is on vacation in Purgatory, aka Florida. Mo, we are very sorry to hear that you are being punished in this way, but thanks for stopping by. Anyway, this is a terrible time of year to be in Florida, is all I have to say. Last time I was in Florida at this time of year, I got heat exhaustion, and it was terrible. So no, thank you. I am happy to. I'm probably a little smarter about that now, but yeah, that sucked bad, and I hate Florida in the summertime. If you go to Florida in like February, it's nice. So anyway, we are totally randomly. I'm going to begin. Where's those trays? I think I put them out there. Oh well. All right. Anyway, Rally the Troops getting a lot of attention. It's a new platform on which you can play games, and I think there's rules enforcement. It's supposed to be really nice. I haven't tried it yet. The games pictured here would be Time of Crisis. I think that's Andy and Abyss. That's Nevsky. This thing in the back is Red Flag Over Paris. Is this um is that Wilderness War? Or is that, I think that's Wilderness War. So in any case, rally the troops if you want to check it out. All right. Play deck, try to struggle Red Seas out. Hooray. There's a box back for Vijayanagar, which I'm probably also mispronouncing. Deccan Empires of Medieval India. I believe this is coin inspired rather than a coin game per se, but I might be confusing it with another game. There's some news here on Red Dust Rebellion. I haven't ordered that. I probably ought to. Perfidious Albion, and putting it with 100-degree heat. We were pretty close to 100 degrees yesterday, actually, and then it rained and cooled off. God's waiting room. Also, like I said, purgatory. That's what I said. Bill Simone says Rally the Troops also has several Columbia block games, which I know that you can pick up digital adaptations, like straight digital adaptations of some of the Columbia block games on Steam as well. And I have a couple of those like on the list of things to check out at some point, but I haven't checked them out yet. So, The Longest Trench from Udo Grebe Games, which appears to be a card game, World War One card game. Okay, Vassal Modules, hooray. Interviews, including Colin Parsons, designer of Field of Fire Volume 3, Carlos Marquez Linares, designer of Imperial Fever. Player's Aid interviewed Joe Schmidt, who's the designer of Henry. We, of course, on the Thursday show, the Ted, I think, was the first guest on the show when we moved to Thursday. Talked to Ted Racer, designer of I, Napoleon, which looks very promising, I got to say. And Cope, video interview in Spanish. My Spanish is not that good, so I can't watch this. To Francisco Gradial, designer of Plantagenet. All right, so P500 editions. We got some big stuff here. Okay, so first of all, we have 3 Days of Gettysburg Deluxe Edition. We have Thunderbolt Deluxe Edition. We have Thunderbolt single game and a second printing of Red Storm. So we are going to look at all of these because these are all kind of noteworthy. I'm probably going to even look briefly at Thunderbolt single game. I'll start with 3 Days of Gettysburg. This is sort of the genesis of the great battles of the American Civil War, current incarnation from GMT, which was begun by Richard Berg with 3 Days of Gettysburg. This will be the 4th edition of it. And each of the editions includes noticeable changes. I don't want to go so far as to say upgrades, but this edition will be a significant upgrade. Stigler, I checked it earlier. We'll see it in a minute, but it was real close to 1,000 when I checked it earlier, yesterday or today. So this is a Gettysburg game. It, unlike previous editions, is going to include a 4th map to include the Eastern Cavalry field and scenarios to support the battles there, and scenario support in the main battle to include the Eastern Cavalry battle stuff. So that in and of itself, we have not seen that in this system since Rebel Sabers back from TSR back whenever that was. So that right there is a significant upgrade. In addition, there are a number of what I will characterize as refinements to the GBACW rules that have happened since even the last edition of 3 Days of Gettysburg, that I think warrant an upgraded package by themselves, let alone that the package itself needed an upgrade, right? So I've talked about this before. The previous editions of 3 Days of Gettysburg had insufficient scenario support. This will have 10 or more scenarios. That's going to be a huge deal in making this a more comprehensive and robust package on Gettysburg, in addition to doing the Eastern Cavalry battle stuff, which no game has covered as part of the Battle of Gettysburg, as far as I know. Where's it at as of today? 954. So this made its number of 500 super fast. I don't know if it was a record or not, and I do feel like the new edition of Pacific War hit 1,000 faster. But yeah, this is getting, I don't know if I want to say fast track because they still got to make, the design team has to still finish their work, but I would not expect a long post design delay here on 3 Days of Gettysburg. So you're going to get And this is the significant upgrade is why I think we're not going to see an upgrade kit. You really want this new version, frankly. So you're going to get 3 full-size maps on Gettysburg, which is what you got before, plus an additional full-size map for the Eastern Cavalry battlefield, and the backside is going to be a second-day assault scenario, which is really good to see that they're going to add those types of scenarios. Um, there's 2 smaller scenario maps, both of which are double-sided, which is great. 8 sheets of counters, which include some optional counters for Into the Woods, so you can do a little more with Shiloh, plus all the upgraded stuff. Now, the price on this. Now, bear in mind here, we're going to have. I don't know if this is going to be in a 3-inch box or not. Does it say that? The last edition was in a 3-inch box. I can tell you that because I have it, and I would assume this will be as well. Frankly, that 3-inch box is super roomy. I got this whole game into 3 counter trays with no trouble. But the new edition is going to have quite a bit more stuff in it. And as Stigler points out, the Rebel Sabers was ugly. So he is not lying or exaggerating in any way there. No mono maps. Stigler, I guarantee that I'm going to do an unboxing of this game when it shows up, or somebody else will do an unboxing of this game, and there will be a comment that says, "There's no mounted maps. Why are the maps not mounted?" So somebody will complain about that. So, uh, and the price of $63 is extremely reasonable. Even the price of $99 is pretty reasonable, to be frank about it. Deluxe edition map not final. We got to look at this. This have all 4. I haven't looked at this image yet. It's taking a while to load. I mean, it's a big game, right? It's Gettysburg. No, this is just the 3 core maps here. So we don't know what that map looks like. But like I said, we haven't seen that in the game in this system since Rebel Sabers. Um there you go. There you go. Oh, and we're also getting some new counters for I think dismounted Confederate cavalry, which we did not have in the previous game. An interesting thing is that um the I forgot what I was going to say. I'm distracted by Peter Fulford's question here. So it really depends on where you are in relationship to the California Central Valley, where GMT is. For me, they tend to charge me something like $20 for shipping. If I pick U.S. Postal Service, I typically pick UPS because I have had a number of situations with GMT where the USPS box arrives damaged and the stuff inside is damaged as well. I do not have that problem with UPS from GMT. So that's I'm not sure you shouldn't necessarily draw that as a well, okay, so let me put it this way. Um, if I get a game in a 3-inch box in a medium size flat rate box, it's gonna get damaged between California and here and Ohio. I don't know if GMT is still shipping in those flat rate mailers or not, but they shouldn't if they are. So, um, I mean, they happily replaced the damaged stuff. So I mean, I even had like component damage on one of those items. So it was no joke. So they fixed it, but I don't know if they're still doing that or not. But I always pick UPS. So something like $15 to $20 is about what you'll pay. So in the US, right? If you're somewhere else, Godspeed, man. Um, so in any case, so there's something about in here. So Perfidious Albion says, I forget how much of a footprint original took up. It's big. It's 3 maps. It's big, and you saw that they don't. It's not a square setup, but you do need some off map displays as well for the formation displays. Um, I use pirate when I ship stuff. I use pirate ships, and it saves me and therefore the person who's paying shipping money. So I'm happy with that. Mo says the entire 1985 series from Thin Red Line should have mounted maps, and the Second World War series from Diffraction Entertainment. They should definitely mount those maps as well. So, Wardrobe, thanks very much, much appreciated. Um, but yeah, it's a good system. I mean, and I if that sounds hesitant, I'm saying that with the caveat that it's also a pretty complicated system. I personally am fine with its level of complexity, and I do think that the noodlier bits in the rules, in particular, some of the ways that the order types interact, which were maybe not as clearly explained in previous versions of the rules, the new versions of the rules really help. They really help. So, um, so how did GMT make money from Three Dog at $63? I don't know. I'm not privy to those numbers. I got to assume it's making sense to somebody, but they are printing in larger volumes than other wargame publishers, so that's going to be a factor. So or did we literally add three copies since we started talking about this tonight? Thank you're welcome, GMT. You're welcome. In any event, yes, I have ordered this. And this was the rare GMT monthly update in which I almost ordered everything. I didn't, but it was close. So is that the same orange? Damn it, MMP on their insufficient differentiation between different shades of orange. Okay, so 3 days of Gettysburg, big game, but this one, unlike the previous game, is going to have smaller scenarios in it that you can dive in with, as opposed to, well, I got a day one, a day two, and a day three scenario, and that's kind of it. That was insufficient, and I am glad that this new expanded edition is gonna happen. I mean, we knew this was in the pipeline. I'd like to see them kind of circle back to Chickamauga and Manassas as well, for that matter. And I think that is somewhere in the timetable, but I don't know if it's going to get quite the reaction this did. This hit its number really, really quickly. So, as Mo and a couple of other people have pointed out, mounted maps also create storage problems. So, I would just as soon. I mean, I'm going to put if it's a one map game, maybe a two map game, cool. With if it's mounted, that's nice, but it's never why I'm going to buy a game. Also, that's fancy. It's got a mounted map. I gotta have that. I mean, no. Um, it's more important. I'd rather have everything fit back in the box. That's and I'm not gonna not buy a game because not everything fits comfortably in the box, especially now that I can kind of design my own storage solutions. But um, I'm gonna put Plexi on a multi-map game anyway. So who cares whether it's mounted? A most fearful sacrifice is kind of a one of a kind thing, right? I mean, was a very special production, at least until the next one comes out, which is going to be equally special, I think. So all right, so next up, there's two different versions of this, so I'm going to kind of flip back and forth between the two. This has also made the cut already, by the way. This is the long awaited 18 years Thunderbolt, Volume 3 in the Ancient World series. This is a Richard Berg series I think, supposed to have covered more than just ancient Rome and the Punic Wars, but what we got was 3 volumes, which together will cover the first and second Punic Wars, and the Samnite Wars, in Volume 1, Rise of the Roman Republic. This is a really, really neat system that it's very Bergian, but not in an excessive way. I think. Yeah, so people are already dumping their copies of Rise of the Roman Republic and Carthage, the first Punic War. So Thunderbolt is the second Punic War. It's the one that Berg, I'm not sure what happened exactly, but it just never materialized. With Berg's passing, we are going to finally see it. Now, there are two different versions of it that are going to be made available, and we've talked about this. One for $53 is going to contain Thunderbolt Volume 3, The Ancient World. And this is going to have, I'm not going to go through the components, but it's going to have 3 maps, okay? 3 maps and 6 counter sheets. The deluxe edition, on the other hand, will have 3 maps and 6.5 counter sheets. And the trick here is that the maps are the same maps that we had in the previous 2 games. So, all they really needed to do, and a lot of the counters are gonna be the same. John Stanley, thanks so much. Much appreciated. Stigler might know about this. This seems really unlikely to me. Um, I feel like those, while some people really liked them, I feel like they didn't maybe get the attention that they deserved. Um, so, ugh. It's 18 years. I looked. So, and yeah, it's been a long, 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 long time. 2005 was when the last one came out. So the fact is that considering that the units have generic strength, not they're not generic strictly, but they're strength points, right? So you don't need more of them. You just need the additional leaders on the counter sheets, and then you need the game specific rule books for the earlier games, and then you pretty much have the whole thing. So that's what you're getting with the deluxe edition. Despite owning the previous 2 games in the series, I ordered the deluxe edition and did not order the standalone edition. Um, and I'm okay with that. Do I plan to get rid of the other 2? Not till I have this in my dirty little hands. Let me put it that way. Hexy, thanks for stopping by. Um, so I mean, Glory is one of those. This deluxe edition literally includes the previous 2 games. So yes, this is totally the one to get. It has all 3 games in it. Now I'll point out, if I didn't say this already, I apologize for that. I will point out that the game was finished by longtime series developer Alan Ray and Mark Herman. So you know, props to Mark and Alan Ray for taking this on, because I figured, kind of a long time ago, that we were just never going to get this. And you're going to get the updates too. So there's all that. Um, I feel like I'm missing something. Another Gettysburg game. Yes, that's this one. So, not that there won't be another Gettysburg game from GMT at some point. Yeah, the counter sheet, we've already covered the counter sheet. It's got plenty of orders. So this is another reasonably complicated game system, but it does a really good job sort of modeling the Roman and Carthaginian political and leadership systems, which are modeled very differently because they were different. They were interestingly parallel political systems in a lot of ways. But in practice, in terms of how that affected their military posture, they ended up very different. And it's really an interesting compare and contrast to compare the Roman quote unquote republic with the Carthaginian quote unquote republic. Um, I think one of those 2 things, neither of those 2 things comport with what we would think of nowadays as a republic, let me put it that way, but they did so in different ways. Um, so, um, I recommend this, but, it's a complicated game, so know what you're buying, know what you're getting into, and you're certainly getting a lot of stuff. This is gonna have, is it 2 full size and 1 half size map plus 6 counter sheets, and another counter sheet and a half, which is the deluxe version only, which is going to be basically the counters for the first 2 games. Is what that's going to be. You're going to get 3 separate books for the 3 separate games: one for Rise of the Roman Republic, one for Carthage, one for Thunderbolt. I mean, the second Punic War is the one people want, right? The first Punic War is more interesting than people seem to think. It's one of those things, is like the it's like the Crusades, right? The crusade that everybody knows about is the Third Crusade with Richard the Lionhearted and Saladin and all that stuff. And the Punic War that everybody knows about is the Second Punic War that has Hannibal and the elephants and all that. For my money, the First Crusade is the really interesting crusade, and the First Punic War is the really interesting Punic War. But we don't see a lot of games on the First Punic War. We've seen plenty on the second. over the years. So, and thumbs up the video as Brant reminds you to do. So much appreciated. So, in any case, you got two different options here. If you got the previous two games and don't really feel like replacing the originals, you can just buy this volume 3. You'll notice that 44 people have made that choice. If you just say, "Yeah, sure, give me the new fancy one," in all one big box, you can order this and the deluxe edition, and 590 people have done that so far. So clearly, both of these are doing pretty well in terms of P500 stuff. Now we're going to buzz through the final option here in the leaders. There we go. In the leaders, which is Red Storm's second printing. I am. This is going to be a little less of a rush, I think, because it's only got 74 orders so far, but it's a reprint, which is different rules for reprints with GMT. So I do think this will happen sooner or later, but probably later rather than sooner. And this is a good game. I've played this. If you're interested in modern hypothetical error stuff, this is with some operational flavorings. Then this is a really good game. And I have no friggin' clue where my copy is. I have to assume I gave it, and it's going for big dollars on the secondary market, as Todd Cox points out. Red Storm sold out pretty fast, Stigler. So I am not. This is not all that soon, to be honest. It has been commanding large quantities of cabbage on the secondary market for a while. I've got the expansion. I've got all the third-party expansions, including the cards from Game Crafter and the extra scenarios from that dude in England. And I don't know where the main game is. So I have to assume I gave it away. Interestingly, I'm one of two people that I know whose copy of Red Storm has gone missing. And I don't know what the hell happened. I maybe gave it away, but I don't remember that. Um, so like I said, I expect this to get reprinted at some point. All right, so back to the update. Recent P500 editions, check these out if you want. So we have already talked about these. I don't know that I have anything else to say. New P500s on the horizon. A new Levian campaign series title, shocking everyone. We are all stunned. More fun for 18xx fans. There may be as many as 3 or 4 18xx games in the pipeline from GMT. I'm not super duper into 18xx games, but I am in principle willing to play them, since every time I have played one, it has been fun. A new game from a legendary game industry designer. Don't know what that is. Hint, hint. People in the chat, if you know, please spill it. A hobby classic World War II game and a new GMT version. This is not going to be the first one of these. If anybody knows about that, I would love to know what that is, but be very curious to know. And somebody just subscribed. David Messerly, thank you so much for the subscription. Much appreciated. I have that set up in such a way that I can't see it when I'm on mini screen here. All right, coming events. Historic KC Fest in August 17th through the 20th. I don't know if they mentioned WBC on here or not, but that's actually going on right now. SD HistCon East, August 18th through the 20th. This is the one at the Naval War College Museum. It sounds amazing, but it is sold out, so can't do that. PAX Ludica in Cadiz, Spain. I'm sure this is a fine event, and probably most of the folks here speak English, but I can't afford to go to Spain, so we won't be doing that. Game More 2, Oregon Wargaming Convention in Albany, Oregon. Stigler will know exactly where in the fine state of Oregon, where you're not allowed to pump your own gas, this is, but I don't. Or Stigler, is it near Portland? Because that's the part of that I've been through. Fall 2023 weekend at the warehouse, October 12th through the 15th. Traveler Con is, I think, the following weekend in Lancaster, Pennsylvania as well. Can't go to that either. So, hotel details, $96 for room, traditional rooms versus executive suite. I don't know what that means, but that's a very reasonable compared to the room rates for Traveler Con. Sequoia Inn versus Home to Suites by Hilton Hanford. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. They do a video up on Napoleon in Egypt, which somehow, oh, look at this. They changed the law so that they are allowed to pump their own gas in Portland. How about that? Fantastic. Um, that was my big takeaway for my drive through of Oregon, by the way, years ago. Perfidious Albion says that Spain is by far the most affordable for vacationing in Europe. That's probably true, and there's certainly lots of cool things to see and do in Spain. But getting there is, of course, the issue. It's not so much being there. Being there is not much more expensive than being in Philadelphia, for example. Um, I don't get it. Compass Expo, yeah, that's not gonna Mo. That's not gonna make the GMT newsletter. I'm just saying. But yes, Compass Expo is the first weekend in November for Veterans Day weekend, and I should be there. Um, Marco Petre is the developer for Napoleon in Egypt. I don't think I knew that. That's very interesting. So there's a video on this. I don't know how this hasn't made its number yet, to be honest. Although Napoleon's Egyptian campaign is one of those things that's like it's another one of those more interesting than you think it is type of things. Um, so there was there's that's still the case in New Jersey where you're not allowed to pump your own gas. They ran out of this gas station to yell at us when we were in New Jersey. All right, Mr. President has Vassal and Tabletop Simulator modules. I strongly prefer Vassal. I've looked at the Vassal module. It is excellent. That is a Joel Toppin production. Um, and if I do a longer playthrough, I will probably do it on Vassal, frankly, because it's just a lot easier. Because it's eating a lot of table space. All right. A bunch of miscellaneous stuff here. Not yet P500 items. These should be looked at closely in case you are interested. Here's a Candace Harris video on Banish the Snakes, which certainly looks pleasing. I'm not interested in it topically, so I did not pick it up. All right. Charging and shipping. In addition to the 5 things that we've already talked about. Next, charges and shipments. 18 India, 4 commands and colors Napoleonics, Austrians, Russians, Prussians, Spanish, and the base game, plus the custom dice that they are finally getting around to after so many years of having those shitty stick dice with the stickers on them in the box. I don't need them because I bought the ones that Valley Games did, I believe. Pursuit of Glory second edition. I really probably should order that. I did order some additional things, but I didn't order that. All right. So at the printer, things that have moved up in the queue include Norman Conquests, which is Men of Iron Volume 5 is now at the printer. In addition, Tanto Manta and the Plum Island Horror are at the printer. Plum Island Horror is Herman Luttman's sci-fi sort of 50s horror movie, The Blob type of game. It looks really fun, and it is at the printer. Going to the printer late this month includes Vijaya Nagara, which is new on that status, and Banish All Their Fears, which has been on that status. Going to the printer in August is Commands and Colors Medieval plus Napoleonic expansion number 6, which is Epic Napoleonics plus Panzer North Africa. I think the Panzer folks will be happy to learn that is finally gonna get there as well. And in the art department, 18 new in the 8. Go ahead and look at the whole thing if you want to go look at the whole thing. I'm just giving you the updates here. So newly added to the art department is 1833 NE. That's going to be an 18XX game. Cross Bronx Expressway, which actually looks really interesting to me. And I Napoleon from Ted Racer, which looks extremely promising as well. Pretty sure I've ordered. I better get on that if I haven't ordered that. I'll have to check because sometimes I don't think I've ordered it and like, oh shit, I got charged for it. North Africa 41 was like that. I'm like, I might pass on this one. And then I got charged for it. so I ordered it and I need to check that. And it's not GMT's page for checking on what you have on order is not incredibly easy to deal with. Nearing art department readiness are Bear Trap, which has been waiting for quite a while, and The Bell of Treason, which is Czechoslovakia 1938, which might be interesting, but I haven't looked at it incredibly closely yet. Um, so a jest or guest or whatever the hell is it is above Robin Hood is around here somewhere as well. That's in the art department. That's been in the art department. Stigler says that by Sword and Bayonet should be out before the new Three Dog. Yeah, but it's well, in a sense, it's farther along, but it's also a new design, right? Where Three Dogs not. It's an iteration on a previous design, and they've been working on. It's not like they just started working on it last week. They've been working on it for a while. So in terms of production, I don't know, but I think Swords and Bayonets should logically be out sooner, right? And as Wardrobe points out, and I've pointed this out too, the battles in by Sword and Bandit are going to be small and very digestible, so an ideal platform on which to learn the game system. On the other hand, in defense of Gettysburg as a learning game, I will point out that I don't think anything in the game system is so complicated that you're just going to choke on it. And Gettysburg is a meeting engagement, which means that you start with relatively few troops on the board. You've pretty much got Buford's cavalry and Harry Heath's guys, and that's it. And everybody else, you may start with another division or Union Corps or so marching up the road on the road when the game starts. But not everybody's going to be fighting at the same time. So Gettysburg's really not a bad battle. Ooh, that bit badly. That bit badly. I felt that, and I was talking and didn't catch it. Normally I catch them. I don't know if you can see that. I got a little bit of a swish cut on that. So, and it is the classics. The Buford versus Heath is the classic start to the battle, but it's also it's an easy thing. And if you play a turn or three turn or whatever, and you don't, they're hourly turns in GBACW, but you can have multiple activations in each turn. So if you play a turn or two and feel like you've screwed things up, it's pretty easy to restart. One of the nice things in Last Chance for Victory is it gives you a post meeting engagement start where the forces are more fully engaged, so that if you don't want to deal with that early July 1st start, you can skip it and not deal with it. And I like having that extra flexibility. That said, I like to start with Ethan personally. Um, So here's the thing with this. Perry Sporopoulos asked, how many Gettysburg games does it take to satisfy the Gettysburg ish? And I think this is a legitimate question to ask because let's face it, we got a lot of Gettysburg games. However, think about it this way. A lot of people consider it an interesting topic, and a lot of people probably don't mind having more than one game on Gettysburg without necessarily committing to having a lot of games on Gettysburg. It's one of the signature battles of the American Civil War, obviously. It is a very important battle in terms of impact. One might debate whether it's more or less important than, say, Vicksburg, but that is a debate you could have. But remember that while there are a lot of Gettysburg games, there aren't necessarily a lot of Gettysburg games in print at any one time. And not everybody has all the Gettysburg games, right? I've got 4, maybe 5 Gettysburg games. And I'm talking by Gettysburg games in this context, I mean games that are covering the whole battle, not parts of the battle, because I've got a couple other games that cover parts of the battle. So and this is a major area of interest for me, right? And I've got 5 games on the battle. That's more than I have for Waterloo, but less. Yes. Ugh, is it? I've got 3 or 4 for Waterloo. That sounds approximately correct. And I've got, I think, 3 for the bulge, unless I'm forgetting some. I've got 4 for the bulge. So if we kind of look at it in the context of the battle level games, battle means a different scale for World War II than it does for Civil War and Napoleonic. Probably the 3 battles that we think of most often is probably Waterloo, Gettysburg, and the Bulge, and there's a lot of games on each one of those. Unless you're like Gilbert Collins, who's like super into American Civil War, despite, as Jeff Beeler intimates, it being Canadian. And I'd say Gilbert's probably got, well, he's definitely got more Gettysburg games than I do. Um, and I will tell you that a different system will reveal different things about the battle to you. So you might well say, one Gettysburg game is enough, but I suspect that somebody that would say that is not going to be somebody who's really super interested in Gettysburg. If you are more interested in Gettysburg, I think you might want a couple different games on it, because those different games are going to tell you different things. They're going to show you different features of the battles. Anyway, nearing art department, we got everything. I think we've got just about everything. Here's the cover to Banish All Their Fears, which looks pretty nice. Here's the cover to Norman Conquests. I like this cover a lot, but I feel like that title could be larger. I feel like on a shelf that is not going to be that punchy. But let me know if you agree or disagree. Yeah, Stalingrad is a bad choice here, though. I'm gonna pull this. Let me finish talking about this first. All right, here's Blenheim from Banish All Their Fears. Here's the back of Tanto Manta. I'm sure this will be a good game. I have not ordered it. Here is one of the maps for the Wilderness for Rebel Fury, which I think should be out soonish. Here's Tanto Manta counter sheets. Here's counter sheets for a counter sheet for Norman Conquest, which I'm pretty excited about. Fans of North Africa. Here's Neerwinden, and some interesting things about Cross Bronze Expressway and Fields of Fire. Order and Opportunity looks actually pretty. I feel like they've upgraded this playtest map. This is not going to be the final map. This game actually looks fairly interesting to me. And this game about this Chinese admiral whose name I'm not going to mispronounce again, by Jeff Engelstein and David Thompson. This looks real promising too. That's a solitaire game. All right, so I think we are covered on the GMT update, so I'm going to talk about this. So Brandt cites an interesting mix here: Waterloo, Gettysburg, the Bulge, Normandy, Stalingrad, Austerlitz. Stalingrad has very seldom been covered at the battle level. Um, Almost every game about there are some games about Stalingrad, the battle, okay? But a lot of the games that say Stalingrad in the name are actually games about the campaign around Stalingrad, and in a couple cases about the entire war on the Eastern Front. So Cross Bronx Expressway is the the so I can't tell you a lot about the history here, but the game is a game about urban development and the tensions and friction inherent in urban development. And if it was just about building the Cross Bronx Expressway, I think that would be um, less interesting. As it is, it looks pretty interesting. Now, Streets of Stalingrad is, of course, one of the exceptions to that, right? Where it is about the battle in Stalingrad. And one might make the case, I think, reasonably, that the interesting thing about that battle is not the house to house city fighting, but the big sweeping maneuver that result in the German Sixth Army and Paulus and surrendering and all that stuff, right? Um, so you can make that case, and I think that's a reasonable conversation to have. But Stalingrad it doesn't fit with it's not like the others. Those are battles, even if they are sort of large scale battles. That's true of Normandy too, but at least you can pin Normandy on a relatively narrow time window, which you really can't do for Stalingrad, the battle for the city, right? Um, I will John Stanley. I will say that there's not enough attention being paid to American Revolution in general. But I would really like to see an operational American Revolution game, for example. And I can think of not zero, but very few examples. Um, so I think they're using the Cross Bronx Expressway topic specifically to show that, like I said, that the friction inherent in urban development. And to me that sounds very interesting. Um, Graffiti's Albion mentions L2 Streets of Stalingrad, which is kind of something else. It's definitely the largest scale such affair. Uh, See, the trouble is I get a lot of these mixed up because a lot of them say Stalingrad in the title. There's Drive on Stalingrad, which I think is operational about the campaign. There's S- Streets of Stalingrad, which is we just mentioned. There's Battle for Stalingrad, which got redone, I want to say, by Excalibur Games. And then there's Stalingrad, which I think is the one Jeff Beeler's talking about. I'm having a little trouble keeping all these straight in my head at this exact moment. Let me put it that way. So, we've seen plenty of games on Alamein. We've seen in the desert in general. We've seen plenty of traffic in those areas. Moscow 41. Yes and no. I feel like we have seen a fair amount of traffic on that. Um, Maybe not as much as we'd like, but I mean, we can go all the way to Battle for Moscow if we want on that. We can go to Typhoon, Vance von Boris Typhoon. Enemy at the Gates again is about the campaign, though. Um, Red Barricades for ASL is Stalingrad, squad level, street to street, house to house, basement to basement, cellar to cellar fighting. Some people have the stomach for that, and some people do not. I think it's up to you whether you want to deal with that or not. Personally, I've played a little Red Barricades and I liked it, but it is maybe a comparable experience to it might actually be Victory Games Vietnam, because it is going to move pretty slowly if you're playing the whole thing. There's plenty of scenarios in it too. Sewer to sewer. That's absolutely true. So Kyle Reese, thanks for stopping by. So I trust that fun was had by all at the fantastic sounding GB and GC ACW event in Gettysburg last week. That sounded awesome. That was another thing that I just wasn't going to get to go to. Is Storm over Stalingrad tactical? I don't think so. I don't think so. But Storm over Stalingrad is about this battle for the city too. So there's that. I wouldn't call it. I don't think you need to be tactical. I mean, there's a whole army in there, a whole German army in there, right? And a couple of like a whole Soviet. I don't know if it's a whole front or not, but it's multiple Soviet armies. There's a game on this. Is that Siege of Constantinople on this Siege of Constantinople? Because I'm not positive that it is. I'm thinking of the fifth wheel game in the Art of Siege quad. Um, I think was this siege. I'm not sure I'm remembering a siege in the Fourth Crusade. I think they kind of sacked it on their way through. So, but I might be thinking of a different crusade that went in and misbehaved in Constantinople as well. So, Red Barricades, as Paul Sin points out, is indeed a commitment. So it's a big project, right? If you're going to play. Stalingrad Advance to the Volga looks like it covers the city battle as well. Verdun on the Volga, I'm not sure. It might be 1585. Does that number make any sense? I don't think that number makes any sense. I've had a long day. 14 something was when the Turks, wasn't it 1455 when the Turks rolled in? Am I getting that one wrong? This might be intriguing. Stalingrad Pocket, again about the campaign, not the battle for the city. So that's not to say that one's bad and one's good. That's just to say it's kind of a it's kind of a branding exercise to say Stalingrad in the name, when Stalingrad is just a place on the map. It's not the map, right? Yeah. All right, we're done with this whole counter sheet. Actually, that's not true. We got half. But this is not a huge game, so and I'm not organizing this at all. A lot of people like Stalingrad Pocket a lot. It's supposed to be really very good. It is one of the early SCS games that they redid, as I recall. 1453 was when the Ottomans took Constantinople. That's the one I'm thinking of. What did I say? 1455. Pretty close. That's not a bad guess considering I haven't looked at that history in a while. So Eric Goebel, welcome to the stream. Would like to see more World War One games from the SCS series, and I actually agree with that. That Drive on Paris is basically the entire East Front for the first couple months of World War One, and actually looks like it's got a lot of interesting things going on in it. And it's one that I probably have a slight amount of regret that I did not pick up, but at the same time, there's a bunch of games on that topic, and I have a couple of them already. And 1914 Not Paris look from VUCA looks really, really, really strong. So I may be picking that up at some point. Let me put it that way. So I have this. This is kind of just a part of what's going on in this game. But Caesar in Alexandria. This is the GVOH Caesar in Alexandria. Um, the opportunity to get an ancient city fight where it was city fighting, street to street, house to house fighting, um, was really, really, really attractive. So I do have this. I have not had a chance to play it. The city itself is big. It's about this big on the map. We put it that way. It's approximately human head sized on the map. There's a bunch of territory outside the city as well. John Madison mentions that Russ Schulke was working on War of the Rats, was making a bolt-on kit called Fire on the Volga for some other older Stalingrad game. Yeah, yeah. I don't have any visibility on that. I also might be getting it mixed up with a variety of other things. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing an SCS a World War One East Front game. That might be very interesting. And to my knowledge, nothing like that has ever been in the pipeline. Not that I've got my ear to the ground for the SCS pipeline. I totally do not. I know about Ardennes 2 only because I saw Dean playing it and Carl's talked about it. What's next for SCS after this? If Carl's here, he can say so if he wants to, but I don't have any information on that. Whereas I have some visibility on what's going on with OCS and BCS, but that's because Carl's been super open about it. Caesar in Alexandria does show up on the Facebook Consim marketplace with some regularity. Carl is here. Carl, what's coming up for SCS after Ardennes 2? Which looks really good, by the way, and it's a significant redesign from the older version of the game. I'll point that out as well. So anyway, Provincial Albion says playing Drive on Paris is taking advantage of historical hindsight. The player will take pains to avoid repeating the same mistakes, like overcommitting like we did at the Marne. Maybe, but you can still have fun with it. So what? A game like 1914 Offensive Outrance is probably going to be a little better at dealing with that since it's got some, I don't want to say super sophisticated, but it's got some command and control limitations that you're subject to in that game that I don't believe would apply in Drive on Paris. I'll say that. Oh, that's interesting. Next for SCS, Carl says it might be third Kharkov, last victory in Russia. That would be fairly interesting, actually. And Carol Reese would like to see a new Modern Warfare SCS. I have no interest in such a thing whatsoever. But if other folks would like to buy it, then by all means they should do it. All right, so let me kind of get into the topic here of gaming goals as far as like what I want to get into, because we're like an hour into we're an hour and 11 minutes into the show and I haven't even mentioned the topic yet. Not that I'll have a problem responding to additional questions. Carl said that BCS Stalingrad won't work. Hans Kishel tried. Is that like the camp? Well, you kind of got that with Kalak, though, right? I mean, it's again, it's a part of the campaign. It's not the city fight. The city fight would suck in BCS. I got to tell you that is not something that BCS is good at handling. Or you could do it, but I just don't think it would be nearly as cool and fun as a game with a lot of maneuver, which is I think what a strength of BCS. So, Jeff Anderson, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, main topic, main schmopic. Sometimes we get I have been excellent at laser focusing, not exactly laser focusing, but mostly focusing on a topic for many, many months. So if tonight is a topic that I knew I was going to take a lot of time on the GMT update. So I wanted a goal that topic that I didn't want to have to spend tons and tons of time on. So Jason W's gaming goal is play as much as he can, which would be a tenth of what he wants. So I mean, and I've said this before, right? The most valuable commodity that you got at some point in your life probably turns into time rather than money, right? And that's where I'm at. I wish I had more. I got plenty of games. Don't have as much time. So like my immediate priorities here are I've got to get the unboxing videos I got actually filmed finished. So that'd be great. But that's channel stuff. That's not playing stuff. So we are plugging away at Last Blitzkrieg weekly, and we probably I'm going to guess we have about another month to go on that. That sounds roughly correct. Turning Point Stalingrad is analogous, not the same game, but it's analogous to Star Wars Stalingrad in the sense that it's an area impulse type of thing. So yes, it's about the city fight. So the other than that, and we haven't decided what we're going to do next after in the group game after Last Blitzkrieg. I think we might try PQ17. That's possible. We're not going to spend a month on PQ7. We might spend 2 or 3 weeks on it. But I don't know that we're going to spend much more time on it than that. And that might just be hey, there's a smaller format palette cleanser type thing that we can do. And I've got the rules. I can read the rules. And I've wanted to try that for a long time. And I haven't picked up the expansion yet. And the whole thing looks really cool, but it's like impossible to solitaire. Because it's one of those things that it's not just hidden information, it's vital hidden information, right? It's not Paths of Glory where I can pretend I didn't see the card that the other side has. It's like you're going to make decisions based on what you don't know. In much the same way that you would in, say, a Victor Gives Vietnam or there's another example. It's kind of vaguely in my head, but I can't think of it at the moment. PQ17 is not that complicated. It's less complicated than half the other stuff I've mentioned tonight. But it's based on hidden information, right? You're making decisions based on stuff you can't see. And to some extent, that's going to be true with any card-driven game, but at least you have like a sense of what kind of space the cards happen in, right? So while I think that if I would have no hesitation in just multi-handing a CDG. I have no issue with that whatsoever. With PQ17, I think it's unplayable solitaire. Is that technically true? No, it is not. You could technically play it not solitaire or solitaire, but no thanks. It's just I'd rather find something else if that's the solution. So if we get to play it multi-handed, with multiple players, I think that sounds great. So Stigler, yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna play all this stuff, to be honest. Now, I mean, there's some stuff that I tell myself I have this for reference, right? But not too many. But I figure exactly what I mean, we could go buy a copy of Case Blue in the shrink wrap for that much, or probably a campaign for North Africa. It's an interesting PQ17 is an interesting topic. So in any event, that's a possibility. Another possibility is Imperium Romanum. We'd be playing the third edition from Decision, which I think is a nice looking package. I understand there's some ambiguities in the rule book. That's probably an accurate statement, but I also don't. I think we'll be okay. Let me put it that way. I think we've dealt with worse. So, and we always have the second edition rule book and or the errata to look at as well. So now we're not going to play flat top because we'll play flat top again in February. So I don't need to do that. If you yes, Brad, if you really want to play QQ17 solitaire and you think it's great solitaire, by all means, vote for it in their survey. Link in the video description. So the I don't know what else we might think about doing. A number of things have come up, but I don't know what's going to happen. Didn't Compass pick a different name for that? I thought they did, but maybe I'm nuts. This is true. This is true. It's not never been the best explained game. You kind of have to in many respects, Imperium Romanum, whatever edition, is analogous to Pacific War in this context, in that it really does require a very serious interest in the topic, and it really does require a decent amount of work to figure it out, right? Not just to figure it out, but to make the game work. I think Pacific War is more complicated and more unconventional in some ways, actually. So I actually think that Pacific War is conceptually a little harder to grasp. But I believe we'll be able to deal with Imperium Romanum. Not to say that we won't complain. We will complain, but there will be it's been on the list for a while, and I think if we have 4 players, we can just play the Tetrarch, the collapse of the Tetrarchy. I think that'd be a great 4-player situation. And it's meaty, so I think we're going to be okay. But again, those two are just kind of ideas about what the group needs to decide on when we're wrapped with last Blitzkrieg. What I have to do in the behind the door right here is somewhat more constrained because I got channel stuff that turns into, right. So Tom MCS, how does Imperium Romanum stack up to Pax Romana? It's difficult for me to encapsulate in a single sentence how extremely different they are. Extremely different. Pax Romana is a point-to-point CDG, and Imperium Romanum is a straight hex encounter game with heavy bookkeeping. Pax Romana focuses on a particular period in which, ironically, it's not during the Pax Romana. It's kind of during the where there are a number of competing states that could at least conceivably compete with Rome. So pre-Empire. Imperium Romanum is not a campaign game. It has a large number, I want to say about 80 scenarios, many of which are quite long. But there's no like, I'm going to play this campaign from 753 BC to 455 AD. That does not exist. But some of the scenarios will take a long time to play, right? So, like the Marcomanni Wars scenario, that's like a 10-year period. So I'm going to WBC 2 schmooze. I don't expect to actually get to play anything. That'd be great, but I'm going to be there for 5 hours at tops. So they're extremely different games. If you like Pax Romana, other than perhaps affinity for the topic, there's no guarantee you'll like Imperium Romanum or vice versa. Now, Imperium Romanum is one of those kind of magisterial games, though, that there's really nothing else quite like. Again, like Pacific War, but there's really nothing else quite like it. So where Pax Romana, you're not gonna if you play Pax Romana and then next you play Sword of Rome, you are not stepping onto a totally alien planet. Okay. Um, 35 scenarios. That sounds low. That sounds low, unless we're talking about the first edition, which I've never owned. I've only owned the second and third editions. I'm remembering 80 scenarios in the third, but I might be misremembering that number very, very handily. On the to-do list also is a 3D printed storage solution for Imperium Romanum 3, which I don't really need to do, but it will organize better in my trays than in the trays that it's currently in. Everything's in the box already. Now this is completely fair statement, right? There's a lot of people who are just going to be like, Pacific War is just kind of too much. But I really like Empire of the Sun. Same type of deal. But they're more different. I'd say Pax Romana and Imperium Romanum are more different than Empire of the Sun and Pacific War. I mean, the big difference there is scale, right? I mean, Empire of the Sun is a strategic game, and Pacific War is an operational game, where Im- Imperium Romanum is really it's really both. So whereas Pax Romana, I would call a strategic game with some operational level elements as well. And it's Pax Romana is easier to approach. I mean, I agree with that. I don't it'd be silly to disagree with that. Get rid of this thing so I can get rid of that message. So obviously the priority right now. So I've got two game tables, two big game tables in there. Okay, so I can have two decent sized things set, not huge but big. Think two folding tables, which is a simplification, but that's what I got. You've seen the setup for Mr. President if you're watching those videos. It's kind of a U-shaped table. So after Mr. President, now remember, I'm only doing 1 year of Mr. President. And it's not because I don't think it's good, it's because I wanna get to other stuff. Um, I suspect that the next thing that we look at is going to be first victories from Lock and Load. That showed up. This is one of the prototypes. The game's not out yet. And it should, I think, be out this year, I think. It looks super promising. It's from Terry Doherty, who is a alumnus of Lava Tai. So it's kind of an answer to Lava Tai in a way at a similar scale with pretty small battles. Relisha and the Miro, is it Vimiro? Maybe. Um, but it looks fairly promising. Jeffrey Wesovich says that Glory and Empire should be out in October. So that'd be great. So yeah, I really, now that I have some Lava Tie under my belt, I really wanted to see, and it's been cool to see it a couple months ago, but as it did just show up. So, but I'm looking forward to trying that out. Now, what that will turn into video wise, I have no expectation at all. That I doubt you will see playthrough of it in any serious way. Let me put it that way. John Longshore, thanks very much. Starbucks at WBC. Yeah, so that's like half a burrito, I believe, from what I'm hearing reported on what the food costs. But fortunately, but thank you. I appreciate much appreciated. And I'm sure we'll eat there. Let me put it that way. I have heard a variety of different reports that the food is terrible and overpriced, or that it's pretty good and overpriced. So you're probably a bit of a captive audience there. But I overpaid for food at. No, I'll eat there. I'm happy. I mean, so if you're eating there all week, then that turns into a giant expense. But if I'm having lunch there, that's fine. I've overpaid for lunch before. Bob Kowalczyk says he's not convinced that Mr. President is a good game despite the many fanboy comments. I will end up having I'll have an opinion video at the end of the playthrough. And I don't think it's um perfect. It's certainly not. Even the presentation, which is generally really good, is not perfect. There's some things it's like, it's like telling me exactly what to do 99% of the time, but I found the 1% where it doesn't tell me what to do. And I'm like, oh, so what do I do? I don't know. Um I think it's pretty good. It's definitely, as solitaire games go, it has a lot more decision making opportunities for the player than many solitaire games do. That's not a lot of the decision making load is carried by the actions, but you have generally a lot of flexibility with those actions, and then there's other decisions that you can make too. Um, there's a lot of the, like, sort of the narrative load of the game is carried by the events, okay? And, it it is solitaire, but it's easy to co-op, let me put it that way. I don't know that there are I don't know if it says this in the book or not, but it's transparently easy to figure out how to co-op it, let me put it that way. You can co-op it with up to 4 people, and you say, "You are the Secretary of Defense, you are the Secretary of State, you are the Chief of Staff, you are the whoever the other person is, and I'm the president. I'm the fucking president," as Richard Belzer would say. Um, but, I kinda made a point to, like, not peek at the events, all right? So, like, a lot of the, like, narrative flows out of those events, and but not all of it. There's like a lot of and it's super mechanical. So for those who don't like that, you're really gonna hate it. Yes, Joe Faust, you have the reference correct. Stacking limit, much appreciated. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. Um, but I mean, I think it's pretty good. My opinion is pretty positive so far. If it was going to be like a 0 to 5 rating, I'd probably give it a 4 right now. On a 1 to 10, I give a lot of sevens out, to be honest. But I don't think it quite makes 8, but I think it's probably pretty close. The and I'll have more to say in the wrap video on this. I don't want to blow too much time on that. So this looks incredibly promising. GameFound is another crowdfunding platform that a lot of game publishers are choosing to use instead of Kickstarter. I actually did a news item on this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. This looks real promising, and it's the first in a projected series as well. So I'm very curious to see what these folks come out with on that. So I am keeping a very close eye on that. If Marty Sample is here, tell us when Winter's Victory's coming out, by the way. Um, so tabletop political CPX. Eh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, part of the interesting thing about the CPX, the command post exercise, is what Brant's talking about. Um, is the interaction, player interaction, and you're not getting that in a solitaire game. Um, there you go. Stigler ordered it on the spot, and he doesn't need. No one will need another ILOU game after like early 2024. I believe I can state that with some confidence. We will have all of the ILOU action that we require between the new Labatt ILOU that's coming, between Winter's Victory that's coming, between this ILOU 1807 that's coming, and I think there's even another one that I'm like forgetting about. So so after that, I've got some. I kind of like to try Second World War at Sea, Avalanche Press Second World War at Sea. Um, and I do have Coral Sea now, courtesy of Avalanche Press. Thank you, Avalanche Press. This is the small sort of starter game in the series, and it's been compared to Flat Top. And uh yeah, you could do this, but it wouldn't be as interactive. I don't think. Um so uh yeah, I don't know. It's been compared. Second World War C's gotten comparisons to Flat Top, and that like comparable to Flat Top. What'd you say? What'd you say? We got to try this. So I am excited to try it. Um, And Jeff says that the best way to play it is with a referee double blind. I'm probably not going to do that, but I believe you're probably right. Let me put it that way. Same thing with flat top. Although, like a flat top kind of builds the double blind in for you, to some large extent. Um, so, a great day. Welcome, welcome back to the show. Oh God. And Alistair Logie. I am not having scotch tonight because I had a migraine earlier today, and I do not wish to have that to kick off again. So Leyte Gulf is the big game. I mean, it's the biggest naval battle in modern history, anyway. So yeah, we don't. I don't have that, so I don't need that. I'm happy with Coral Sea, right? And that's a good battle because we've played a million games of flat top. We're familiar with it. Um, and I agree with Stigler here. It plays fine with two people that know what they're doing. Um, and if they're not honest players, then you shouldn't be playing with them in the any game in the first place. If you're playing with some kind of cheater, not recommended, by the way. Avalanche press games do typically have a lot of scenarios. That's absolutely true. All of the stuff I've ever seen from them has an ample selection of scenarios. Now, because I have, I've kind of been pounding the History of Rome podcast down. I kind of would like to play Rome Inc. It occurred to me, like, but before I even got the box open, that Mr. President would be even cooler if it was Mr. Imperator and you were playing as one of the Roman emperors. And then it occurred to me like a week later that Rome Inc., although much simpler, is kind of that. The whole, like, Rome imagined as a corporation thing is kind of it's really just kind of in the opening paragraph. That's not a serious thesis that's explored in the game, although the economics of it certainly are. There are like 3 or 4 sequel games or prequel games to that coming up, by the way, one of which is already on the schedule, which is Diocletian to Heraclius, I think. The first one is Augustus to Diocletian. Then there's a Roman Republic game that's in the pipeline. So yeah, if whatever Mr. Philip Jelly wants to do at this point looks super promising, and I'd love to play that. So that's on the priority list as well. Now, another thing that I kind of said I wanted to do toward the beginning of the year was Frederick the Great. And I just have not gotten to that yet. Except that I did clip. It was kind of punched already, but I clipped and organized my copy of Freddy the Great, my Avalon Hill copy of Freddy the Great. So that's happened. So that's a good bonus there. Um, but it has not actually come close to hitting the table. And maybe I'll split that one half table up once it gets clear. Right now, it's covered in junk. Once I clear that away, maybe I'll set that and another thing up so I can kind of poke at a couple of different games at a time. Cyberfield Marshall, thanks for stopping by. Um, Andrew Detterer is talking about Polis. I'm not sure Polis is really my thing, to be honest, but maybe I'm misunder. Damn it, maybe I'm misunderstanding Polis too. John Clark, I should have more to say about battles in the East. Maybe next, as early as next week. Actually, that's possible. Um, I don't have anything to say about it right now. Other than that, it looks nice, and I trust the designer. I have not seen Oppenheimer. It is on my to-do list, but I don't know that I'm gonna get. I ain't getting to it this weekend, so or next weekend. So I don't know when I will get to see it. It may have to wait till it shows up on cable. I don't know. So, and I have no opinion on the Barbie movie either, to be honest. Whoever went and saw it and enjoyed it, good for you. That's all I got to say. Not my thing, but who cares if it's not my thing? If it's your thing, go at it. Oh, I did order the second printing of the Tyrant expansion for Great Battles of Alexander. Um, so that's just a tonight thing, Bob Kowalczyk. We have not sworn off the scotch. Um, I don't know if I'm going to see Napoleon in the theater or not. I'll definitely watch it. I can tell you that. But I got a big TV, and even if I didn't have a big TV, I got a large monitor and a pretty good pair of headphones. I've heard middling things about the new Indiana Jones movie. I heard it's okay. Nobody's loved it. I've heard that it's okay, and I've heard that it's awful. So I asked on Twitter and got basically no responses for a Roman political game, like not necessarily a Mr. President for Rome, but like a Roman political game, other than Republic of Rome, which I've played, which is great. And I think one of the guys from the Players Aid asked, "Is it you want me being more political than Time of Crisis?" And I'm like, "Yeah, more political than Time. I don't think Time of Crisis is political at all. I think it's a I think it's a deck builder." It did not it did not ring to me of Roman politics at all. It rang to me of deck builder. Now, I'm willing to give it another shot too. I don't know if I'm willing to give it another shot means that I'm going to order the new deluxe edition, which will include the expansion, by the way. I've heard good things about 300 Earth and Water too. Yes, Twitter is now X. Don't ask me, man. I don't. I'm still there. What can I say? I'll still be there unless it flames out totally, but or unless it becomes unviable. Um, so I no longer ask people to go follow me on Twitter because that's where I'm most active. I'm still most active there. It's just that there's no confidence in the management. It's just dumb. It's just a cavalcade of dumb. And apropos of nothing related to war games, there is a thing that whether you approve of it or not, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and all those people are much better at than Twitter has ever been, and that's that at monetizing their user base. Okay, and what I mean by that, and this is kind of the classic statement of, it's free to use, but you're the product that is being sold here to advertisers. Twitter never really got their hands around that. Yes, there's ads, but they don't get that. And the new management over there wants to monetize it by charging people to use it, which is a fabulous way to ensure that people will not continue to use it, because I am not paying to use a social media platform. I'll find something else, and if that means Facebook or Threads, which is the competitor that Facebook just launched, which is basically Twitter but built on Instagram. I think I haven't looked at it. So Triumvir is going to be political, but it's not out yet. So I don't really want to get into a digression, anything other than I've already said about Elon Musk fucking Twitter up. So, and I haven't looked at Threads, so I don't have anything to say about that at all. I'm on Mastodon. I will stay on Mastodon, which is a fully stable platform that is not being run by somebody that's nuts. So, incidentally, I got a new phone, and the knuckleheads said, "Oh, we didn't give you you walked out without your old phone." So, I still have the old phone because they didn't give me the trade in. And after listening to them, I decided I was just going to keep the old phone and use it strictly for making wargaming videos. So, Threads has no desktop interface. That's a deal breaker for me. So, that is a deal breaker for me. So, Mastodon is less siloed than people think it is. If you're federated, and most instances are federated, you can follow anybody anywhere. And if you look at your federated feed, you will see stuff from people that are followed by people you follow. I'm not sure I said that correctly. Um, yes, I think that's true. And the wargamers.social instance is great. It's great. The quality of this dialogue there is super high. Um, I'm very happy with it. So, in any event, I don't have anything meaningful to say about that. I'd rather talk about Rise of the Roman Republic. Um, which was kind of a weird choice for first game in the series because while there is a second Punic War scenario in it, it's basically this the main attraction is the Samnite Wars. And no, that's not nobody's going to buy a game on this. If you called it the Samnite Wars, nobody would buy that because nobody knows about that. It is actually fairly interesting. This is before Rome even has control of the whole peninsula, right? Um, so um, Another thing that I want to do is the game I meant Imperium Romanum 3 I guess is what we'll do, but whenever we get to it, it might not be next. But I want to do Nations in Arms as well, and I think that would work well as a multiplayer game. I really want to play World in Flames, but that's a big project. Um, and Yeah, so there's not really a sequence here. That's kind of the thing. Even the individual volumes are kind of all over the place. In that the first volume has I forget exactly what there's like a couple of basic scenarios which are on random topics. Then there's a main campaign scenario that's on the Samnite Wars, which is again the main event of that game. And then you've got the one scenario, which I believe is called Thunderbolt, which is the second Punic War scenario, is Hannibal's invasion of Italy. The map is the map of Italy. Maybe I should pull this back up. We don't have a full map of it. Um, but the Carthage, the second game, uh, adds to that the half map of Africa, right? Of Carthaginian Africa. Um, Volume 2 is the first Punic War. That's Carthage, the first Punic War. Volume 3 is Thunderbolt, the second Punic War, which we'll get in some detail. And so there's like a set of full naval rules and a set of simplified naval rules, as I recall. And um, I am confused. Um, the second Punic War will use the simplified naval rules. Let me finish that thought before I go up. Knock Paris looks really good, and not just looks really good. It looks really good, and it looks like an excellent game as well. I still don't have a copy of Panzer Group Guderian. It's on my wish list, but I'm not willing to pay. It's one of those things. I'm not going to pay $70 for that. You're nuts. Um, this is what I was confused by. His wife bought a female printer. Is like it's like a person with a printing with like rolling the things on the wood cuts, or I don't understand. I'm confused. Um, so FDM printer. Okay, that's different. I get what that is. So I don't want to necessarily spend a ton of time talking about 3D printing, but there's basically two types of 3D printing that's available for the consumer. There's the FDM printers, which is the filament printers, and there's the resin printers, which is the liquid UV resin. Okay. I'm doing the filament printing, and for what I am doing, the filament printing is probably the right choice. Different. Ooh, good books on the Punic Wars. Good question. I am reading at the moment Hannibal's Road, I want to say it's called, as my current book on the Punic War, on the second Punic Wars, I should say. Successors is an interesting looking game. Nations at War 1813 plus. When I hear Nations at War, I think of the Lock and Load publication, which is definitely not 1813. So I'm also confused by that. Maybe I'm being exceptionally confused tonight. Stranger things have occurred. Let me put it that way. Um, so good luck with the printer, though. My advice on the printer is pick a brand of filament and stick with that. Fiddle with it till you have it printing the way you want it to do, and just stick with that. And then hopefully your preferred brand of filament will have all the colors you want. Um, and yeah, I guess you could always read Levy for Second Punic War. That would be reasonable. Levy's not Polybius is probably the better choice because Polybius was like literally there, or at least was contemporary. Whereas Levy was writing uh, like 200 years later, 150, 200 years later, something like that. Nations at War was about the battles. I don't know that you've got the title quite right, but it is called the Battle of Nations. Are you talking about the SPI game? Because that's Battle of the Nations. Well, this might be true, but yeah. So the Fate of All looks super promising, and that may be out by the end of the year. And if I know Fabrizio, it will literally be released either in the last week of December or the first week of January. Nations in Arms. Okay, that's different. And I that's on my uh goals list as well. I'd also like to play Europa Universalis: The Price of Power, the new board game, and that will probably happen because I got a local fella here that really likes it and wants to play it, and then he hasn't called me about it. So, um, okay, so Eric Goebel asks either Dark Valley or Army Group Center. Do you want to play the entire East Front for the whole time, all of it, the whole time? Because they're both big projects, right? Army Group Center is just the center at 5 miles to the hex. I forget what the map scale is on Dark Valley, but it's basically a core division game. And you can play the entire thing in a long weekend. But it covers the whole war, right? Whereas Army Group Center ends in September, early September, or late August, something like that. Um, this might be true, but at least he won't be competing with himself again, where he's got two games that would kind of poach each other's votes, right? Um, so this is true. I don't know why they did it. I'm just kind of joking about it that they keep releasing it. I also have no problem asking for Fabrizio, when was your actual release date? When did you start shipping this? And he'll tell me, and therefore it is not mysterious. But we that does generally mean I have to sweat it for an afternoon while I'm waiting for a response. Now, Army Group Centers is a really interesting game. If you're going to solitaire, especially, both systems I think solitaire well. Dark Valley is a chip pull system. It therefore it solos relatively well. Um, East Front series solos well because the Soviets get kicked in the teeth the whole game, basically. And you have to be a certain kind of Soviet player to be willing to put up with that. It's not like they have no opportunities to counterattack, but it's not exactly a lot of many player personalities will not be happy playing the Soviets in the East Front series in general. At least those titles that have come out thus far. And where I think that particular campaign gets more interesting is after Army Group Center ends in it is the period covered by Typhoon. So um but I have a good opinion of the series. You just have to kind of be willing to deal with that. But if you're playing it solitaire, that might not be a problem. Best Bagration game. Um, I'm gonna say Highway to the Kremlin. How about that, Jeff Beeler? I like those apples. Streets of Stalingrad, third edition. That's the L3 edition, right? I think. Vietnam 65 to 75. Paul Grassmere is going to be playing that for a while, apparently. At least if you play the campaign, you don't have to play the campaign. So yeah, I mean this is correct, but what I'm saying is that for many players, it will not be fun to play the Soviets, and that's independent of whether they can win or not. Um, I there's a sense in which this is true. So Mark Hodgkinson says EU, he means European Universalis, the price of power. And this is a criticism that a lot of people have had, is that you have really limited interaction, but that's really only true at the beginning. The problem is that most people don't get past the beginning because it takes friggin' forever to play by the standards of the kind of game that it is, by the standards of somebody that enjoys Case Blue. Who cares, right? You can play it, and it's about uh, I would estimate that a full 4 age game played by people who know what they're doing is probably a 30-hour experience, something 32 hours, somewhere between 25 and 35 hours. Let me put it that way. Now, later on in the game, you're going to have a lot more player interaction. So I have no John, thanks for stopping by. Um, Now, if you're the kind of player who will enjoy playing the Soviets, awesome. That's great. Uh, that'd be good for the other person to play the Germans then, right? There are some people who really enjoy playing the Soviets in that game. I do think that's a minority position though. Wolf Dog D-Day at Omaha Beach is outstanding. It There is a flip book play aid available. I want to say on Board Game Geek, but if you haven't tried it yet, and if you don't feel comfortable with it, download and use that. It will help a lot. Um, this is like a real life factor, right? If the Germans aren't absolutely cleaning house, the German player may quit, but then just don't play with that German player anymore if he's going to be a bitch about it. So, Mark Hodgkinson says played 4 3 age games, each 40 hours over 5 day nights. I do think it's actually going to slow down later in the game too. Though. That's a good point. Um, as Brant says, please thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. So we had quite a few people here at one point, but less now. But that's okay. We've been meandering quite a bit most of the evening once we got past the GMT up, but that's okay. I kind of did that on purpose tonight, to be honest about it. I did not want to do a pile of show prep after having a friggin' migraine most of the day. Mark Hodgkinson is going to golf. Outstanding. And at 10 at night. I assume he is not an Eastern Standard Time, so we'll just make that assumption. Um, so I guess it's all fun and games until you start losing per Agri Day. That's exactly it. I guess so. What do I got coming this week? I should have there'll be an RPG video next week. It's going to be a look at the new Columbia Games thing that they're kickstarting. The prototype is in my hand, so you will see that next week. I think at this point the ship has sailed on getting a new episode of Mr. President out this week because it's a 7 or 8 hours to edit, and I haven't filmed it all yet. Like I said, I started it, but I didn't finish it. So um hopefully I'll get to do some of that, except that I'm leaving town on Saturday. So we'll see. But we will continue that. I'm going to do a whole year. I'm going to try to do a whole year. Um, as long as he's not going to Top Golf. Outstanding. Traveler Tuesday will not happen this week. I actually have a video in the can, and I just haven't gotten to edit it. So it's just a matter of getting that done. But the editing mojo has all gone into Mr. President lately. The unboxings you usually are easy. They're not no effort to edit, but they're usually not too much effort to edit. I got to take the car in tomorrow too because I'm driving it 3 hours to Pennsylvania on Saturdays, and it was making a noise that I was not comfortable with. So we're getting that done. So I'm not sure what this week looks like. We'll try and get at least something else out, but we will. I will assuredly do some kind of video from WBC. What that looks like, I don't know. I might do a vendor hall walkthrough. I might do a game hall walkthrough. I don't know. But there will be a video about WBC out of maybe more than one, but we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to be there for 4 or 5 days like I was at Origins, but we will. Alan Salazar, thanks for stopping by. Even if you are late, it's all good. You can always watch it later. So, um, yeah, component quality from Lock and Load has always been really high. One thing I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain about GMT component quality for just a minute, actually. Because Mr. President has the nice thick brown core counters. They're really nice. They're all pre-rounded, and they've got dog ears anyway. On the rounded corners, there are still dog ears. They're obvious enough that they were noticed in the video by at least one person commenting. That's irritating. And the corner radii are such that I can't just run them through the clipper, which I would otherwise have done, unless I run them through the 1 inch clipper or the I should say the 3 millimeter clipper, the 1 inch clipper. What the fuck am I even talking about? The 3 millimeter clipper, which would clip way more off of them. So I'm not going to do that. So that's fairly irritating. I mean, not going to write him a nasty letter about it, but man, that's just setting off my OCD like crazy. WBC interviews. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do interviews. It's really going to be talking to a small, not necessarily, hopefully not that small, a number of people, and I do want to meet some people that I haven't had the chance to meet face to face. So, and if you haven't met, if it hasn't been mentioned, as John points out, if you are interested, Mr. President, order it now from GMT because it's going to be gone pretty soon. If you're interested in the 2020, they're calling it the 2023 errata counter sheet, and it's got some 2022 games and some 2023 games on it. And if you want that, get your order for that in pretty soon too, because you don't want to pay. You certainly don't want to pay for it later and have to pay $18 to ship a counter sheet. Like I said, I don't want to have to do this. I'm not going to do this. I long ago stepped away from toenail clippers at this point for counter clipping. I'm happy to have pre-rounded corners though. Don't get me wrong. It's not the act of clipping the corners that does it for me. It's although there's a certain relaxation element there. Lately I've been getting my relaxation element done out in the yard doing yard work. So I didn't notice that on Versailles. I didn't know. Maybe it's there, but I didn't notice it. There's less counters on Versailles though. Mr. President's got a lot. There's like 4 or 5 counter sheets in that thing. There's a lot of counters. Mr. Versailles is mostly little blocks. There's some counters, but not that many. All right, Eric Goebel, thanks for stopping by tonight. Hopefully you'll be able to join us in future weeks. I do actually have an idea of what we're going to have next week, but I'm also probably going to spend some time talking about WBC and what the experience was like there for the afternoon I will get to spend there. And One True Flem says Siege of Jerusalem is in open gaming at WBC, and I'm already seeing. I mean, it's going on right now, right? I could go out tonight. It's just 3 hours away. And I think it's $30 to get in if you pay at the door, by the way, for a day pass. So I would like to remind everybody to thumbs up the video if you haven't done so already. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you, subscribers. Big shout out to the patrons of the channel. It's really incredibly helpful and supportive. To have the patrons that we have here at Ardwulf Lair. I am enormously grateful, and I don't feel like I do shout outs, but I don't feel like I properly express my gratitude to the patrons of Ardwulf Lair. So thank you, patrons. And we will see everybody next week on the flip side of WBC. Thanks for coming by.